Energy in ecosystems. Energy from the sun. We experience different forms of the sun's energy every day. We can see its light and feel its warmth. The sun is the major source of energy for our planet. It causes the evaporation of water from the oceans and lakes. Sunlight also provides the energy used by green plants to make their own food. These green plants then provide food for all organisms on Earth. Much of the energy that comes from the sun never reaches the Earth's surface. It is either reflected or absorbed by the gases in the upper atmosphere. Of the energy that reaches the lower atmosphere, 30% is reflected by clouds or the Earth's surface. The remaining 70% warms the surface of the planet, causes water to evaporate, and provides energy for the water cycle and weather. Only a tiny portion, approximately 0.023%, is actually used by green plants to produce food. Many gases found in the atmosphere actually reflect heat energy escaping from Earth's surface back to Earth. These gases act like the glass of a greenhouse in that they allow energy from the sun to enter but prevent energy from leaving. They are therefore called greenhouse gases. When sunlight strikes an object, some of the energy is absorbed and some is reflected. The amount reflected depends on the surface. For example, you've probably noticed how bright snow is when sunlight falls on it. Snow reflects most of the energy from the sun, so it contributes to the low temperatures of winter. Dark-colored surfaces, such as dark soil or forest, absorb more energy and help warm the surrounding air. Energy movement in ecosystems. Energy is transferred from one organism to another at different levels of food chains. We refer to the different levels as trophic levels. Organisms that can make their own food from basic nutrients and sunlight or some other energy source are placed in the first trophic level. These organisms are called producers. Plants, algae, and some types of bacteria are producers in the first trophic level. The second trophic level contains organisms, such as mice and deer, that feed directly on the producers. These organisms are called primary consumers. Secondary consumers are animals in the third trophic level. They rely on primary consumers for their food, but they indirectly depend on the producers in the first trophic level. For example, although a wolf eats other animals, it still relies indirectly on the plants that provide energy. The deer the wolf eats has eaten grass or the buds of a spruce tree. Energy in food chains and food webs. Every organism within an ecosystem provides energy for other organisms. Food chains are a way of showing who eats whom in an ecosystem. Figure 4 shows a one-way flow of energy in a simple food chain from a producer to a secondary consumer. The deer, which is in the second trophic level, does not make its own energy. Instead, it relies on the spruce tree, which is in the first trophic level. The wolf is in the third trophic level. A single food chain illustrates only part of what happens in an ecosystem. Most organisms have more than one food supply. Deer also eat buds, stems, and bark of a variety of trees and shrubs, as well as certain grasses. Wolves eat many different animals, such as rabbits, birds, beaver, and muskrat. Each individual organism is involved in many food chains. These food chains interconnect to form a relationship called a food web, figure 5. If an ecosystem, such as a tropical rainforest, has a great variety of organisms, the food web will be very complex. Where there is a limited number of organisms, for example, in the Arctic, the food webs will be simpler and will resemble food chains. In such an ecosystem, the organisms are at greater risk because if one food supply is eliminated, there are few alternative food supplies. Energy transfer. Every time energy is transferred within an ecosystem, some of the energy changes form. Not all of the energy that a plant creates can reach the animal that eats it. For example, a mouse that has eaten grass seeds cannot store all the energy from the seeds. It must use some to stay warm, to keep its cells and organs functioning, to move around, to feed its young, and so on. Once the energy has been used, it is not available to be transferred. When an animal such as a fox eats the mouse, only a small fraction of the energy that was stored by the grass reaches the fox. The further up the food chain you go, the less energy is available. In every ecosystem, less total energy is available to secondary consumers than to primary consumers. Of course, when plants and animals die, their bodies decompose and some of the energy goes back into the ecosystem. Energy pyramid. We can represent energy flow in food chains and food webs in graphs called pyramids. These graphs show the relationships among the trophic levels in an ecosystem and demonstrate that not all of the energy is transferred from one level to the next. The decrease in the total amount of energy available as you go up a food chain limits the number of individual organisms that can be supported at the top levels of the pyramid. Human use of energy in ecosystems. Our early ancestors survived by collecting plants and eating animals that they caught or dead animals that they found or stole from predators. Their impact on the ecosystem was very small. The two important demands on the ecosystem were plants and animals for food and wood for fuel. Somewhere between 10,000 and 12,000 years ago, human society changed. People started to practice agriculture, they planted crops and raised animals. This allowed them to remain in one place. Trees were cut and the lumber was used to build permanent houses. The cleared land was then used for farming. The food produced by farming allowed the human population to grow, and the additional energy needed to maintain a farm had to come from the ecosystem. By changing to an agricultural society, humans were using more of the total energy available in the ecosystem. Other changes have taken place more recently. Technological advances, such as improved plant species and modern medicines, have helped to increase food production and improve the health of humans. Again, these changes allowed the human population to grow, placing still greater demands on the ecosystem.